on to our last session of the day. We have Mr. Peter Mayer, Vice Chairman Logics, as the moderator for this session. As the Vice Chairman of Logics, Mr. Mayer is responsible for the overall management, business activities, and strategic direction of the company. Joining him on stage are Mr. Dharma Mankuluhur Putomo, President Commissioner, PT Intra Golf Resorts, Mr. Harold Ong, Partner, Indies Capital Partners, Mr. Shinsuke Nuria, Board Director, THINC Limited, and Mr. Zulkifli Haria, Director of Investment Management, Ministry of Tourism and 𝐶𝐻𝐿. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you guys are still awake. We have the unenviable task of being the last party. And I ascribe to the adage that a hungry person and thirsty is an angry person. So we'll try to keep it snappy. Today's topic is what are investors looking for. I think we have an interesting panel today with a good breadth of perspectives. We have somebody from the government sector to talk about how the government is supporting investment. That is Zul. We have an individual who is a principal investor in Indonesia, Dharma, with Mulia's group, publicly listed company developing and operating golf courses. We have Harold Ong, who is a principal in a group that has and is the largest operator in terms of hotels in Indonesia with approximately 180 properties. And we have Shin out of Japan, where he can offer perspective on how what's happening in Japan is a good analog for Indonesia, as well as Japanese investment interests in the country. So maybe what we'll do first is start off on the public sector side. Zul, if I may, maybe first just to provide some context, what are the priorities of your ministry in terms of promoting and developing tourism, which is a bedrock of investment, and what kind of budget, second part of the question, do you guys have in terms of achieving your objectives?
Okay, thank you, Peter. If you're talking about investment in Indonesia, a lot of homework to be done, right? So that's why government should be there in facilitating investors as well as the local government, and also the promoting project owners to meet what investors need at once. So that's the point, right? Then the government has a target in 2024. We have $3 billion target investment in tourism and creative economy sectors. So it is a very, very huge target. So from this kind of thing, I will work together with all of potential investors and then the local government as well as the center of government to put fit regulation and implementing the regulation. I think that's the frame. Thank you.
So maybe as a follow-on question there, what are some of the incentives or inducements that the government is providing to promote investments specifically? Tax abatements, ease of visa issuance, those are some of the things, special economic zones, etc.
Yeah. Of course, now government have 10 special economic zone across the nation in line with the tourism and creative economy sectors. Besides the special economic zone, also we have a running 3 tourism authority board, which is location in the Borobudur, Danau Toba, as well as Labuan Bajo. So we work on that. Then we have to promote, right, the project investment related with tourism and creative economy sectors, right? We very often ask to the investors and the project owners to come along with us, right, to promoting to another investor, for example, like in China, Singapore, Russia. Yeah, as we know by now, the top 5 of investors come to Indonesia for direct investment. I mean, yeah, number 1 is in Singapore, right? And then the second one is in India. India is very huge now, right? And then the third, we have Australia, if I'm not mistaken, and then of course, Japan, number 4. Right? The biggest investors come to Indonesia is coming from Japan, and then the latest one is in the, the UK. I think that's the point of.
Okay, one follow, and then I'll move on and give some others a chance to weigh in. But relative to those countries, maybe you could describe some of the things that you're doing to make Indonesia more attractive as an investment destination.
Yeah, now we create new Balis, right? We have destination super priority. We have in Labuan Bajo, Danau Toba, yeah, di Kupang, the north of Minahasa Utara, then as well as Mandalika, right? So hopefully the new Bali, they can enhance investment, especially for the tourism and creative economy sectors. So we work hard now, then we have the facilitating, and then we have the promoting. Also, we educating on the local government to meet the investor want and needs. It's not easy, yeah, because investors sometimes asking, not sometimes, yeah, often, yeah, they asking about how about the status of the land clearing, and then who's the partners. So what about the sustainability of the business? So it is the question that the investor asking.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe switching gears for a moment and over to you, Dharma, as one of the folks on this panel who's actually a principal investing in development, a major operator, developer of golf courses. From your standpoint, what are you looking for?
Hello. So I'll just give a background on the company. I'm the president, commissioner for Intra Golf Link Resort, UK. We are a listed company now. So we own and operate 3 golf courses. One in Bali. We have a beautiful cliffside 18-hole golf course in Pachatu. And then we have 𝐶𝐚𝐭, which is in the mountain ranges near Jakarta, around 40 minutes. Beautiful mountain ranges, beautiful weather, and it's only 40 minutes away from Jakarta, the capital city. And we also have one in Belitung. And Belitung is a beautiful island that has really unique rock formations that you can't see anywhere else. It's very beautiful. I would recommend people to come visit Belitung. So as a background, we see that there's a big potential and a big market to be capitalized in golf tourism. Right? So as a background, in Indonesia currently, we have around 250,000 people coming into Indonesia to play golf. Right? That's a big number compared to the domestic market currently in Indonesia. So in the domestic market, we have around 170,000 people playing golf in Indonesia. The tourism is double of what is the domestic market. But if we look at other Asian countries, for example, in Thailand, for example, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand is bringing in 6 million people every year coming for golf tourism. Right? Vietnam is doing 1.5 million, and then Malaysia is doing 500,000. So there's a big potential that we need to invest in this golf tourism in Indonesia. Because again, this would create a new landscape of tourism that's not being characterized to its full potential yet. So with that, it can impact a lot of other industries, such as the hospitality industry, F&B industry, because again, these markets, these target audience, they're affluent people, they're also spenders, and therefore the economic benefits of people coming in from the golf tourism sector would impact positively on other sectors as well, not just the golf sector, but also other sectors within the tourism aspects.
You know, I agree with that 100%. There's no question that if you look at just the sheer numbers of golfers coming into those other major destinations relative to Indonesia, relative to total tourism, there's a tremendous opportunity. And golf, I agree, would be and is a major table setter for that. So that's quite interesting. Harold, again, you come from a different vantage point as a major operator of property. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your business for perspective first.
Sure. So at Indies Capital, we're a private equity firm. So we invest in operators. So we're asset light. We don't invest in the real estate. But maybe if I rewind back 2 years ago to when this first started, we really saw an opportunity in what was a very fragmented market with very few local champions of scale. And by that I mean local champions that are Indonesian-focused hotel brands. So what we did was we looked at the market. We found very, very good management teams that we could partner with. And so far we've been very fortunate. We've obviously partnered with Gavin and his team at Swiss Bell, Indonesia, as well as by Erasmus at our hotel. And we've been building scale. So the opportunity for us was really to take this fragmented market, do what a lot of the international guys have done, which is consolidate, build scale, and you can provide a differentiated offering to consumers. And what we're really focused on is building a local champion. So today we've been fortunate enough to build up to about 180 hotels between the two brands that we work with. And I think there's still opportunities to build more. So we're looking probably to increase our stable of brands to 250, 300 hotels in the near term. So we're big believers, I think, in the macro story of Indonesia. We're big believers that there's a lot of political stability in the country now. There's consistent 5% plus GDP growth from an outlook perspective. And there's the rise of the middle class consumer. Okay? And you've seen the statistics this morning. I think Indonesia, in terms of foreign arrivals, we actually have not reached the peak of 2019. And yet, I think some of the hotels are enjoying the best time in terms of ADR and occupancy. Who's filling that gap? It has to be the local consumer. Local businesses, MICE events, government-driven events. So we're big believers in the medium to long-term story in Indonesia, and that's why we invested in the sector.
So what you see is a confluence of stable political environment, healthy GDP growth, and the rising middle class and disposable income, and all of that, and obviously positive government support for this sector. In terms of expanding your business, are you looking at doing it through wearing the soles out of your shoes by securing piecemeal individual management contracts, or more of a Pac-Man approach, acquiring other operating platforms as you've done with the first two, or some combination thereof?
I think it's both, right? So we are still on the lookout for more brands that we feel really fit either Swiss Bell or our hotel. At our hotel, we've expanded quite aggressively. When we invested 2 years ago, I think we had 17 hotels under the Art Hotel banner. We have made multiple acquisitions to take the platform now to about 100 hotels. But within our hotel itself, so the organic growth that you spoke of, I think we've gone from 17 to 40 hotels today. Yeah, so I think the opportunity is both. And scale, I think, affords us to be able to provide the consumer with a differentiated product. You have a certain standard operating procedure, a standard of quality that people can trust. You can offer people a loyalty program, like our hotel has launched a Wanderlust product very recently. And so a consumer can turn up at any city in Indonesia, and you will have 4 to 5 choices that fit your budget, that fit your location, right? That's something that the international brands have done very, very well. And that, of course, leads to more direct bookings, which is the holy grail for any hotel operator. And of course, that also translates to making money for the real estate owner.
That 15 to 20% OTA cost out. Maybe switching gears a little bit, turning to Japan, and I think understanding why Japan is growing and successful provides useful perspective for Indonesia. Maybe Shin, you could talk a little bit about what are the factors that are driving Japan and how you see that as parallel to Indonesia.
Okay. So I think we all know that all the currency situations, so how inbound is booming. But I guess I was actually like thinking about the similarities between Japan and Indonesia hospitality market. It's hard to find, but like when you look at the inbound tourism, back in 2009, Japan total as a country, inbound tourists only account for 6 million people to 7 billion people, which is now like the number of people you are getting in Bali from international countries. And the past 15 years, it's been growing so fast. Last year, we hit the historical high, 31 million people coming to Japan, and the government is targeting 60 million by 2030. So it's gonna grow further. The issue, I think it's what's important here, and also it could apply to Bali, is that people come back to the region. Japan's visitors, international visitors, 70% of the visitors are repeaters. And I think Bali is somewhere people come back for vacation from time to time or periodically. I think that matters a lot when you think about how the tourism is booming. And secondly, I think there's a lot to offer locally in the different aspects. Japan has a seasonality, but I'd like to compare Okinawa, which is the most popular resort destination in Japan, to Bali. Bali is more international. Okinawa somehow is not international, it's more domestic. So not many people know about Okinawa or select Okinawa as a resort destination in Asia, because there's so many options around there. But people choose Bali for that. So that's a big difference when you compare to retail levels. But as a country, it's totally different. Japan and Indonesia is so different. It's hard to tell what similarities are in between two countries. But I think that people love to revisit the country or place is more important. And also, you have the targeting is also.
I understand that there's increasing interest by Japanese investors in Indonesia. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what these parties are finding attractive about Indonesia as an investment destination.
Sure, yeah. A few days ago, there's an announcement about Mitsubishi Estate, which is the largest developer in Japan, investing in Jakarta and bringing Andas to Jakarta with husband. That was actually I think, most iconic investment from Japanese developers in hospitality space in Indonesia. But it's really hard for Japanese big corporates to come to new market. Usually, if you look at the market in Southeast Asia, they start coming into the new market with condominium or residential development, or sometimes logistics, where you can minimize the risk compared to other asset classes. And then they go into retail or office development, and of course working with local partners. And once they make sure that they can come into the market, they also expand the asset classes and going into operational asset. That's something eventually happen right now. Mainly in Jakarta right now. Historically, they are like I'll say micro, but like small like investment by constructors, general contractors investing some resort in order to, for example, they do also construction together with local companies. There's always like risk adjustment when they come to the market. But now I think some of the companies are ready to take the risk and actually make a big step into the market. So Mitsubishi example was one of the iconic ones, and they also announced a few years back they're bringing Japanese operator to Jakarta, which is also a big investment. They have more than 500 keys, including service apartments. But yeah, that's where we stand now. Some of the Japanese developers are still hesitating to come to the Indonesian market. One, they haven't found the right partner. The second, their strategic focus is not here yet. Like some companies look at the whole Asia, or even like Western countries. So it depends on their strategies and priorities. These factors are something we need to consider when you come to invite Japanese players into the market.
I mean, for the investors that are actively pursuing investment in the country, from their perspective, what do you think the risks are that have been mitigated that are making them pursue opportunities?
Right. So specifically for Mitsubishi Estate, actually I'm going to Jakarta this week and I'm meeting some of them. Actually, a friend of mine just relocated to Jakarta internally. Once you have certain exposure, obviously they set up subsidiaries there, and then they hire people locally as well, and then they get used to the market, and they get to know people, they get to know the culture there, and they get to know how to work with local players, which is the most important factors, I think. So that kind of mitigates risk for going into the new market, because they need to. At the end of the day, it's between people, so you need to build a trust between people. And Japanese care about it a lot. Very careful, taking so much time, sometimes annoying, but but yeah, how you get to market, you need to be used to it, and you need to know the market and people well, and it's just taking so much time for it to get it.
I understand that it takes time. Having spent some time there for the Japanese to build that sense of trust. Once you have it, the floodgate opens. How, you as a big operator here, what do you see from the standpoint of kind of parties you're talking with when you're pursuing that? What kinds of investments? What do you see as their concerns? What are they focused on?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, we're the ones trying to invest in the management companies, the operators, and they are then looking for either opportunities to bolt on new acquisitions, or just grow organically. And when you try to grow organically, you're really dealing with a pretty fragmented market in Indonesia. When you think about our core in our brands, it's really 3-4 star hotel brands. They're serving a lot of the domestic local consumer markets, second, third tier cities. So, the challenge is to, provide a value proposition to them that makes sense for the hotel brand. I think you're competing against, obviously, a lot of international brands. So you have to really put a value proposition that, you're going to be able to drive demand. You're going to be able to put in a loyalty scheme that gives you more direct bookings. And the challenges on the real estate side is really, do they have the right funding in place for the local investor to be able to put that into place and meet your brand standards, because you obviously don't really know your brand. Right? Then when we look at the acquisition of brands, obviously what we want to do is we want to create tiering of our products, right? You want to have a 2-star category, a 3-star category, a 4-star category, and you want to be able to differentiate between your brands. And this is not a new playbook. I think the global guys have all done this, the Accors of the world, the Marriotts, right? They have multiple 5-star brands, they have lifestyle brands, right? And brands which are more hip and more millennial focused, that are differentiated to their, perhaps the older, more business-like brands. I think we're doing the same thing. We're looking for more brands out there to bolt on to our operating companies. And it's really about fit, right? Is it the right fit for us in terms of the brand? And of course, then you look at all the financial metrics as investors do, right? Does this really make sense for us to bolt this particular brand on? But I think we're finding a lot of opportunity here in Indonesia. When we started, as I said, 2.5 years ago, we've been fortunate to partner with very good management teams, and now we have 180 hotels, and we're really looking to take that to 250 to 300 in the next 12 18 months.
Early on, Dharma, you were quite bullish on the market because you're a publicly listed company. You can tap, obviously, funds from the capital markets to issue a stock. Are you looking at partnering up with other investors, or you're going to be driving growth exclusively on your own, tapping the public markets and sources of debt?
So we're very open to collaborating with investors from abroad, also from local investors as well. If we see from 2018, golf as a global industry has increased 4%. So if we look at the market before COVID, I think the trend was going on a decline for golf. But after COVID, the interest kicked back up. It really spiked. The interest of golf after pre-COVID, post-COVID, it has increased a lot. I think because people are looking for sports that's outdoors, and because of that, then they stuck with the fun of golf. So it has accumulated a lot of new players, a lot of new markets, and this is why we have to create the right infrastructure, the right ecosystem to make sure that these new markets in the golf sector are also catered to. Right? And then from an investor's point of view as well, seeing that growth in the sport, I think it's a big upside and a very big potential. Again, from our group, we can see that the revenue have increased 60% from 2022 to 2023. Our numbers of rounds have increased 40%. Our bottom line has also increased 136% from just 2022 to 2023. So the growth is there, the potential is there. As I said, the market in Indonesia, we haven't really touched on the golf tourism aspects. And imagine just doing the local markets, because as a background, a lot of the owners of golf courses are property players. So they make golf courses to increase the value and appreciate the land. So they focus a lot more on the local, and then just for tourism, it's more from Australia, Singapore, and that's it. But the bigger markets are actually from Japan, from Korea. Because in Japan and Korea, and also China, there are a lot of players. In Japan, for example, there's 8.3 million people playing. In Korea, there's 5.7 million people playing golf. Right? And then so when they do business trips in Southeast Asia, or when they do vacations with their family, etc., they like to go to Southeast Asia. They stay for quite a number of days, and they usually golf. So this is happening right now in a lot of other countries, like as I mentioned, Thailand, Vietnam, and now Cambodia and Philippines are starting to invest as well in the golf sector. So with this being the current global market, I think that the opportunity is there for Indonesia to start investing in the golf tourism sector. It's a potential to change the tourism landscape in Indonesia as a whole. And the potential is there, right in front of us. The market is already there.
We just look at the sheer numbers. It's
we just
clearly
need
an
to
unexploited segment. Yeah, so I think you're on the right track. Look, the questions are starting to appear, which takes me off the hook a little bit. But given my age, I can't read them from my angle. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. Let's see. Which one? What is your first question when you're presented with investment opportunity? Which one of you gentlemen would like to take that? What is your first question when you're presented with investment opportunity?
The golfers,
Yeah.
as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
I think that answers that question right there.
Which part of Indonesia do you see as having the most investment and return potential? Maybe, Zul, you can talk a little bit about your priority markets from the perspective of the public sector.
Yeah, I think Indonesia has a lot of potential, right? Because if you're talking about the tourism, we're talking about the people move. So the challenge is, so how to attract people come to our destinations, right? So Pak Sandi early in the morning told is very limited connectivity, and then developing infrastructures, so many things. So the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, they have to orchestrate it with another institution or ministry. So that's the point is. So every destination is very potential, but how many people are there is a very huge market, then they really invest. So why in Bali? Bali is very huge. People come and go from every country. So I think it's my point.
We've all been fairly optimistic about the opportunity in general. From your gentleman's standpoint, what do you see as the potential risks that could derail growth and development? Howard, let me start with you.
Sure. Obviously, another black swan event could really derail things, but at the same time, it can create opportunity, right? The other real threat is the lack of connectivity, I feel. So, connectivity is very, very important. I think, we've spoken about the special economic zones, the 10 new Balis, but I don't think we've seen, real progress to the point where, you can compare us to even Thailand, where you don't just have Phuket, you have Bangkok, you have Koh Samui. The list goes on. They have multiple places that they can rely on. We don't yet have that connectivity. Okay.
Well, two things. When you said connectivity, I thought you meant the ability to either come into the country or move around the country. Maybe you're intimating that to some extent, Indonesia is a one-trick pony, not to be controversial with Bali. Is that what you're getting?
Yeah, no, I think connectivity means all of it, actually. It's about people being able to get there. It's the traffic congestion, which was discussed a little bit this morning. When people look at where can they go and have a holiday destination, this is for foreigners coming into Indonesia. Obviously, they would prefer direct flight, right? So the more choices you have in having that direct flight, I think the easier it is for the consumer to make that decision. Right? So I think the better infrastructure you have, I think the more points of consideration for investors to park their capital. Okay, so there's another question there around where would you build in Indonesia, right? Where's the greatest returns? I think the best hotels are still really Jakarta, Bali for today, right? But I think as these other 10 new Balis start to get a momentum, and if we can address that issue of connectivity, I think you really give yourself a chance to have more areas of growth for new hotel sites.
Does anyone else want to speak to what they see as potential risk factors to stopping this speeding train?
I agree with Harold. Connectivity and the infrastructure that we need to really build, because with congestion now in Bali, with the traffic and also flights as well that we mentioned. For example, to Labuan Bajo now, there are no direct flights from foreigners yet, from foreign countries. So they have to go to Jakarta or to Bali first and then to Labuan Bajo, which has a big lead time for them and they get tired. But if they have direct flights, I think it'll open up more investments. And it's not just in Labuan Bajo, but other places in Indonesia as well, like Belitung, for example. yeah, it's a beautiful island with, again, as I said, beautiful rock formations that you can't see anywhere else, and it just shows the true nature and beauty of Indonesia. And then if we have that right infrastructure, people are willing to come, and then investors are more secure and willing to invest in other areas rather than just Bali, because Indonesia has a lot more potential than just Bali.
Sure. I mean, listen, there's obviously the micro issues related to Indonesia that anyone would need to be concerned about. The so-called black swan events, the more macro things, a COVID part 2, one of these very unfortunate regional conflicts, metastasizing into something more major is another issue, and then of course a major meltdown in the world capital markets. These are all factors none of us can anticipate with any certainty what may or may not happen in these extraordinarily complex things we saw in the last couple of days. What's happened in the world financial markets looks like it's calmed down, but you never know. It could just be the quiet before the storm. Don, I was asked earlier to find out, not you asking you, when you might be getting married, your girlfriend. I know it's inside, but
I said this. Just
I didn't mean to get to the
Let's see.
spot. I was first.
Hopefully soon.
name will
Hopefully
go-
soon.
Okay. Let's see what we got up here. 9 minutes and 44 seconds. I know you guys are probably pretty thirsty at this stage. Okay, so maybe from the perspective of what are the kinds of steps or measures that you folks are taking to the extent that there's a downturn to prevent a meltdown in your individual businesses. Anyone want to take that?
Sure, I'm going to go. I think the question is really on volatility of tourism, which is fairly seasonal, as we know, in this particular business. So I think there are measures that you can take. So, for example, you diversify your business. You have a lot more MICE facilities. You try and garner demand for hosting events, right? So I think there's a difference in the tourism sector, which relies on people holidaying, weather patterns, etc. They can differentiate a product versus businesses that want to hold events, that want to hold conferences such as this. I think it's still very important in Indonesia. The good news is that, given that we've reviewed a lot of operating businesses, even during COVID, actually Indonesia held up pretty well. The country still relies a lot on domestic consumption. So, a lot of the brands that we work with continue to trade pretty well in light of the fact that there wasn't global travel, there was no international travel, but there is still a business community out there that needs the hotel product to hold functions, etc. So that would be one way to diversify your risk.
Zul, maybe turning to you for a moment. How does the government think, to the extent that we had, like we had a couple of years ago, a complete cessation of international travel, and the spigots turned off for inbound? Are there some backup plans that the government thinks about to the extent that all of a sudden there's a shrinking tourism dollar, tax base?
Yeah, I think it's important then we have to collaborate each other, right? So the government, they cannot stand alone. Then we have to work together and work together, and then as Ali said, we have to collaborate action, yeah, between one to another's this entity and then to government. So that's why from this kind of thing we trust and then we optimistic, so we can boosting all investments target as well as tourism improving or ecosystem in Indonesia. I think that's my point.
Shit.
Yep.
You are director in a group called Trump, which operates a couple of boutique hotels in Tokyo, right? So I don't know how much you're reliant on international inbound versus domestic business, but to the extent that there's a crimp in the oxygen hose, right, in your business, how do you guys think about making that up in your pocket?
In that sense, so Trunk Hotels, we have 2 hotels and 1 vacation rental in Tokyo, in the center of Tokyo. 90% inbound. Majority of the inbound guests are from Western countries. Asian tourists only accounts for 10 to 15%, which is unique for Japanese branded hotels in Japan. So in that sense, our target base is not risk adjusted. I'm saying like it's heavily depending on inbound tourists. So in that sense, when like things like COVID happened, I think it's gonna be a tough management. But I think in that sense, if you look into building resilience during COVID times, which types of hotels performing best in Japan is onsen ryokans, right? So they have very strong domestic demands and also can welcome inbound tourists. Some of the ryokans are not like, for example, like their websites are all in Japanese, they're not welcoming international guests. One ryokan chain is quite successful in Japan. They don't even need to welcome international guests. So all the websites are in Japanese still now. They're doing quite well. So if you need to build the resilience, the targeting is also an important factor. And more than that, the timeline. From the investor's perspective, you need to be careful about the timeline as well. If you're a short-term investor, you need to always care about macro situations, but sometimes you don't need to care about it. If you're long-term investors, for example, like in Niseko, many developments are being suspended because of the inflation. Some of them just do land banking, don't build anything. Some of them just flipping the land. They're just selling, exiting, because they do have short-term funds, so they need to exit. So they don't want to take the risk. So they don't even need to build the resilience. They just exit. So the timeline is also important.
There was an earlier question that's now disappeared from the screen. Since you have the floor, and I don't know Trump hotels per se, I'll look at it in a couple of weeks when I'm up there, but would Bali be a suitable destination for your product?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yes. So Trunk, okay. So Trunk is good at placemaking. We have good vibes with the local communities. We are quite successful in Shibuya. We are opening another Trunk hotel in Shibuya, like 30 seconds away from Shibuya Crossing, where millions of people walking around. We still, usually hotel brands have AOP, area protection, but we don't care about area protection because we do have unique hotels with the same brand, and then it's been quite successful. So we wanted to do more in the city centers, and Bali has a good communities locally, and it's a mix of good people and very diverse. In Tokyo, Shibuya, we have very creative people, new rich entrepreneurs from successful companies, and very good mix of people like hanging around and mingle. And I see kind of similar trend in Bali right now. Like many people moving to Bali. Actually, one of the people I know was the CEO of this company until last year. She just moved to Bali, doing new business here. So this kind of thing happening. So if there's a good crowd of people, and they're happy to consider.
Or at the 2-minute warning. So I'm going to go down the line. There was an earlier question which I thought was fairly interesting. It doesn't have to necessarily be in hotels or real estate, but starting with you, Donna, is there a particular investor that you find inspirational in any form, asset class, anywhere in the world?
Well, in the stock market, Warren Buffett.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So
Omaha?
Yep, for me, for Chad.
Harold?
No, one. I think there are many, many good investors in the world. Really depends what you're investing in. So maybe I'll try and stick to the theme actually and be thematic about it. I think if you look at what the global brands have done, the Marriotts of the world, the Accors of the world, in transitioning from offline to online, first to the OTAs and then really to their own pocket. They've done a tremendous job of garnering direct bookings, such that now I believe they have 50% direct bookings, like in the Marriott Bonvoy, for example. I think that's tremendous, and I think that's
One
something
way
that,
from a root beer stand.
yeah.
Chin, any thoughts in terms of an investor you think is particularly acute and adept? Good investor, somebody you like, you think is smart.
Just name someone or is it just, oh,
Wiedemeyer?
that's tough. It's also, you need
Not
to
trying to stump you or anything.
you need to be lucky as well, but I think it's the timing is also important. Right market, right timing, right amount of investment, risk adjustment. You need to have all these factors to be successful.
Well, we're out of time, so Zul, you're off the hook. Unless you want to add, is there a particular investor you think is smart?
Yeah. For your information, to 2025, the government budget is cut off until 60%. So hotel industry, so you have to recalculate your budget, yeah, because it's very hard to us as a government side, right, to boosting and facilitating and then promoting investment across the nation. So that's my point. So that's why I'm optimistic, so we can collaborate with ASEAN, and then as a government we can regulation and then implementing, focusing and supporting their investment.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Be careful out there, everyone.